Hanford nuclear site was built to help create plutonium for the world's first atomic bomb, and it wound up aiding the end of World War II. Hanford specialized in plutonium splitting and was one of the many sites spread across the US and Canada. To create something as large as the Manhattan Project, Hanford needed a lot of workers. Each of these workers had their way of life disrupted by the war, and all came to Hanford for a reason. So here are 5 things you didn't know about life at Hanford.
Employees were hired by the scientific head of the project, J. Robert Oppenheimer. He went around the country of America looking for people of all occupations to fit his criteria. A lot of people were hired, and for many reasons. Lots of Americans wanted to help their country out of patriotism and to avenge what recently happened at the Pearl Harbor attack. For this project, both African American and white people were hired to work as a team, but there was always some racism lingering, something that was a norm at the time.
They were in the midst of building this facility here, this town, which was 50,000 person camp. Think about it, 50,000. They were having to go out there and put the water, the electricity, the roads, the sewer system, everything in, and they were really busy because it was being done so fast. You know, the reactor itself was put together in 11 months. The whole entire site was put together in about 13 or 14 months, and you can just imagine the amount of effort that it took to get that done.
The Manhattan Project was one of the most confidential projects in history. There are only a small amount of people who actually knew what the final goal of the project was. Most workers were assigned small tasks, and they were told to do their job and never speak of it to anyone. This was so that the workers could do their job without having to know what the final product was.
They always would go out there and try to figure out ways of making it as simple as possible. You know, you're going to go out there and load the reactor. We're going to give you a methodology that you cannot fail on it. And so once the box was empty, you were done. And so it was operator proof. And so everything that DuPont did was trying to do something like that, make it as efficient as possible and as foolproof as possible that you could make for a human being.
It was kept a secret because the United States did not want any other countries to get the word that they were trying to build an atomic bomb, and this gave them the upper hand. What they were working on to create would change the world forever. Working in nuclear reactors has affected the people working around them greatly. Since the opening of the nuclear reactor, workers have been exposed to harmful vapors. A lot of workers who have worked around nuclear storage tanks have reported this quite often. This has been a problem in basically nuclear test sites around the world, and it caused the workers of the facilities to have higher rates of leukemia, lung cancer, bladder cancer, and other diseases such as Hodgkin's lymphoma. Another issue with this is that the workers' labor laws that should be protecting the workers' health rights aren't always enforced properly.
Inside the Hanford B reactor site, we are at the Board about Safety and Security. During the time that this B reactor site was in use, safety was definitely one of the top priorities. As you can see in these posters, they wanted people to be safe, but because of the way the laws were back then, they didn't have all the safety laws that we do have today. And because of this, people now have shown signs of different types of cancers, as well as leukemia and other diseases that are harmful and shortening the lifespan of people who worked at Hanford. During this massive project, and in a place where only people who are working on it live there, they have to have some sort of downtime and celebration. There were also sports teams and lots of dances for the people to participate in to get their minds off their work.
They came in, and the workers came in and asked if they could have an auditorium to bring in musicians and orchestras and stuff like that. And Colonel Matthias said, "The Army can't build it for you, but we'll give you the materials." And in 7 days, the workers put together an auditorium that was as big enough to be able to hold 5,000 people. That's how much they wanted to have some level of entertainment out here.
The first atomic bomb was dropped on August 6, 1945 in Hiroshima. The bomb, called Little Boy, had been majorly aided by the workers in Hanford, whether they knew it or not. Most of the lower-ranking workers only found out about the big picture of what they were working on when the news came to America that the bomb had been dropped, along with the rest of America. Most of the workers at the time were happy that they had helped end the war so early, celebrating in the town and cheering.
Working at Hanford was certainly an experience in itself, from getting recruited to all of the secrecy around it. It's interesting to learn about what it was like to work on something so big back in the day, and it gives a little bit of more context on the people who helped win the war. So this has been 5 things you didn't know about Hanford.